9 Sinister Secrets Revealed. When your cursed father transforms into a terrifying monster, the storm has arrived, and with it the truth of my family's darker roots. It's the kind of night where shadows move as if alive, ready to consume anyone who dares to stand still. Emily stood in her room, her pulse thundering like the ominous storm outside. Her father had become a mere whisper of the man he once was, a hulking figure filled with warmth now shrouded in darkness. He'd lost his job at the factory, and with it, the light that used to glimmer in his eyes. Now, Emily could feel only the chill of despair. Thunder rattled the windows, each clap like a sinister knock at her heart. As she paced around her dimly lit room, a curious glint caught her eye beneath the floorboards. The edges of a weathered journal, worn and stained, beckoned to her. She pried it loose, heart racing with the reckless excitement of discovery. This was her father's journal, filled with scribbled notes and sketches brimming with unsettling tales of curses and monsters lurking within their sleepy suburb of Maplewood. The very first entry chilled her to the bone, a tale woven into family legend that warned of monstrous transformations under the cursed blood moon. Emily's breath caught in her throat, a knot of fear tightening in her stomach. Paranoia surged through her. The tales created a haunting fabric to her otherwise mundane life. Could it be true? She whispered to the empty room. As the blood moon ascended into the ink-black sky, the air felt charged, alive with a palpable tension. She looked outside the front yard, cast in eerie shadows. Then, with a jolt, her heart dropped. There he was. Her father stood in the backyard, his silhouette bending and twisting grotesquely, shadows dancing wickedly around him. Something within her screamed to flee. Instead, she pushed her feet forward, toward the backyard door. But instead of protection, she found despair. She flew down the familiar streets, yet everything felt wrong. The laughter of kids that had once echoed in the air was now swallowed by the electrifying tension. Emily hollered for help, but the neighbors emerged as cold, stone-faced figures, their eyes distant. Even the police officer she once trusted just mumbled excuses, a dull glaze covering his gaze like a shroud. They're all in on it, she thought frantically. Before she knew it, Emily was racing through the dark, narrow alleys of Maplewood, each shadow threatening to pull her into its depths. Breathless, she stumbled upon a rusted swing set in an empty park, remnants of her childhood. A shiver crawled up her spine as she realized the truth: her family wasn't the only one cursed. Every soul around her wore a veil of secrecy, a conspiracy hiding behind the facade of normal life. Just as she began to piece together the fractured memories of whispered stories and forgotten warnings, she heard it behind her, a raw, unmistakable growl. Time froze. Urgency spiraled. The once safe haven of Maplewood morphed into a terrifying labyrinth, each corner teeming with dread. Heart hammering, she slowly turned, fully prepared to face the terrible truth. The blood moon loomed above, casting a crimson glow, and she felt certain this was just the beginning of a nightmare she could never wake from. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing in the chilling park, Emily stared into the shadows, her heart drumming as if trying to warn her of the horror that awaited. The growl echoed again, chilling her to the core, and she knew she might not escape this twisted reality without confronting the creature her father had become. What had begun as a simple summer evening had plunged her into a world of curses and nightmares, and she braced herself for the terror ahead. The growl curled around her like mist, thickening the air with dread. Emily's breath turned shallow as the shadows shifted. She squinted, trying to pierce the darkness, waiting for a clue, any hint of what lurked in the night. Silence fell, oppressive and heavy, suffocating her thoughts. And then, out of that silence, came a rustle. A sudden snap of a twig echoed like a gunshot. Instinctively, she took a step back, her pulse racing. The trees loomed taller, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers reaching out for her. Was this the work of madness, or was it the moon's sinister glow warping her mind? Emily. It was a voice haunting, a distorted whisper that clawed at her sanity. It rang in her ears, familiar yet foreign. She couldn't place it. Her heart raced, dread twisted her insides. Please, help me. The plea, soaked in anguish, poured from the shadows again. She stumbled forward, the weight of questions pressing down as she peered into the blackness. Father? She called out, her voice trembling. The growl faded momentarily, replaced by a low rumble, like thunder rolling through the distance. But no answer came. Just as she thought of turning away, she caught a glimpse of movement. It flickered, darting behind a tree. Her heart leaped into her throat. The shadows shifted, and Emily's instinct screamed at her to flee. For a moment, maybe it wasn't her father after all. Maybe it was something worse. A flash of light broke through the cloud cover, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the ground, illuminating a monstrous figure standing behind a tree. It was massive, twisted. Claws glinted, dripping with something dark, glimmers of fangs framed by a snarl that was unmistakably her father's face, twisted by madness and fury. Emily! Run! The voice pleaded again, dissonant now, as if the man inside was fighting against whatever lurked beneath the surface. It was then that she realized the stark terror of the truth. Her father was trapped within that beast, fractured and caged inside the horror of what he had become. No! She cried out, pulling her feet to the ground. But the gravity of her fear locked her in place. Memories crashed in waves. Her father's warm embrace, the laughter at the dinner table, all washed away by the storm of what was now real. If he was still there, still fighting against the transformation, what had to be done? Could she save him, or was she meant to sacrifice herself for the greater good? The very air around her crackled with energy, palpable and tangible, making her skin crawl. Out of nowhere, a flicker of courage ignited within her. Emily took a slow step forward, each movement deliberate. "Father," she whispered, voice quaking with ferocity and determination, "I'm here." The beast hesitated. Its breath came out in short, ragged gasps, but the glow of recognition flickered in its wild eyes. Just as she thought she reached him, the growl returned. This time it sounded like a warning. Suddenly, the beast lunged, snapping teeth inches from her face. She gasped, adrenaline surging as she stumbled backward. Fear sliced through her, but buried deep was a glimmer of hope that she wasn't too late. As she turned to run, shadows began swirling around her, the park transforming into a labyrinth of menace. She screamed, pushing against the oppressive darkness, tears of panic streaking down her cheeks. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed her whole? Emily dashed through the park, the growls echoing louder, the shadows closing in, and new secrets threatening to surface. She could feel them brushing against her, whispering her name, weaving in and out of reality. They craved her attention, and she could sense her own dark heritage pulling at her. What awaited her in the heart of Maplewood? Would she face the truth, or would the darkness swallow her whole? As the night grew deeper, a chilling thought crept into her mind. If her father was trapped within the monster, what if there was another secret lurking even closer, a fate that awaited her own transformation? The blood moon hung overhead, a sinister witness to the unfolding nightmare. She didn't know what awaited, only that she had to find out before the night ended. Desperate, she plunged deeper into the shadows, heart pounding with the echo of impending dread. Emily's senses screamed as she raced through the dense underbrush, branches slashing at her arms and legs. Each growl grew closer, sharp like knives in the dark behind her. She could smell the musk of damp earth and something metallic, pungent, like iron. Panic flared. She wasn't just running from the monster, she was running from the truth. "Help me!" the voice churned through the air, echoing from the depths of her memory. It was the sound of a man she loved, twisted into a cry for salvation. Further away, she glimpsed a shadow more akin to a beast than to a human, a grotesque reflection of the father she once knew. Stumbling, Emily fell to her knees, the damp ground sinking beneath her. Every nerve in her body screamed for her to push forward, but here, engulfed by terror, a whisper of doubt clawed at her resolve. How could she help a monster? "Father!" she cried, voice raw with desperation. "Please!" The shadows thickened, dark fingers curling around her limbs as if trying to drag her into their abyss. If she looked back, would she see him emerging, or had he already been consumed by the beast's rage? Yet she knew better than to let fear hold her. Memories, fragments of laughter, warm hands squeezing hers fueled her determination. "I want to let you go." With renewed vigor, she pushed back against the tide of darkness, her heart hammering as she clawed her way forward. The growls morphed into something more visceral, a low rumble of warning as if cautioning her against whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, she burst through the thicket into a small clearing. Moonlight spilled down, drenched in blood-red hues, casting eerie shadows that danced across the ground. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, cracked and worn. The air felt charged, a shiver of energy that prickled her skin. Chills ran down Emily's spine. She could hear the whispering again, stronger now, swirling around the altar. "Emily, come!" Her instincts screamed that she was stepping into a trap, but she had to know. She cautiously approached the altar, the heavy air thickening with each step. And then she saw it, a series of markings carved into the stone. They were familiar, disturbing. Language of an era long forgotten, telling stories of transformation and sacrifice. The shadows flickered again. She turned, convinced she could feel a breath on the back of her neck. There stood the beast, its eyes glinting like shards spun from darkness. It snarled and stomped toward her, muscles coiling with tension and fury. "Run!" Its voice rasped, more guttural than before, the man within battling the creature's instinct. "Father!" Emily cried, uncertain whether she was addressing the monster or her dad, desperate for a flicker of recognition. And then she noticed the markings pulsed, throwing her back. They glowed faintly in the bright moonlight, a rhythm connecting with her own heartbeat, a resonance that pulled her closer. "Do you want to join him?" The growl shifted, low and mocking. It sent a chill through her veins. Her gut flipped with a sinking realization, questions swirling in her mind like a storm. What were the markings hiding? What did she have to lose? With trembling hands, Emily reached out toward the altar. "No!" her father thundered, the rage in his voice shattering the night. The ground beneath her trembled, the very air vibrating with fury. In that moment of hesitation, where decisions hung heavy in the air, shadows surged forth, threatening to engulf her and the ancient secrets that bound her family. Would the truth claim her, or would it free her? As the beast lunged, the world around Emily dissolved into chaos. One thought ricocheted violently in her mind: was she the next link in this twisted chain, destined for a fate that would make her the monster herself? Dark victory lay just beyond the altar, entwined in her father's struggle. Desperation clawed at her throat as she stood frozen. Would she unleash even greater horrors in her pursuit of the truth? The shadows danced faster, and as she called out again, the night whispered back, "Discover your power or be devoured." Emily's heart raced as the shadows swirled around her, panic tightening its grip like a vice. The growl echoing in the darkness mixed with her father's anguished voice, a chilling reminder of the man he used to be. As the beast lunged, she felt the weight of choice pressing down, suffocating her options. She froze, caught between instincts that screamed at her to flee and an unbearable urge to stand her ground. The altar loomed before her, its markings alive with pulsating light. They seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat, beckoning her closer as if her very essence was intertwined with their ancient secrets. "Emily!" Her father's pleading erupted in a guttural roar, the rage of the beast rising like an ocean tide. "You don't know what you're doing." Desperation gripped at her throat. "But I have to help you," she shouted, her voice quaking with fear and determination. "Please. I can see you in there." The beast hesitated, the flicker of recognition flashing in its feral eyes. For a moment, the growls stilled, replaced by a heavy silence stretching out like a thin line of hope. But in an instant, the moment shattered. The shadows reassembled like a wave crashing down, threatening to drown her in despair. Join him? The beast mocked, its voice reverberating through the trees. You have no idea what that means. Sacrifices demand blood. Emily's gaze fell on the altar. What if the markings were a door? A glimpse under the surface of everything she feared? But what of the cost? She clenched her fists, making a choice. Then let's make a sacrifice together. You don't have to lose yourself. As if echoing her resolve, the energy of the altar surged, illuminating the clearing. It wrapped around her like a warm shroud, filling her with a strange sense of power, as if the memories of struggles gone by were now part of her, infused in the blood coursing through her veins. No! Her father's voice crashed against her, a wild, desperate plea that sliced through the thickening shadows. It rang loud in her ears, battling against the pulsing light emanating from the stone. The air vibrated with tension, charged and alive. The markings seemed to reach for her touch, whispering promises both alluring and terrifying. She could almost see glimpses of the past flicker in and out, glimpses of her father, the man he could be if only he could pull free from the beast's grip. Fight it! Emily screamed, tears streaming down her face. I believe you're still in there. Remember me. A low growl built in the beast's throat. It staggered slightly, as though struggling to break free from the shadows that bound it. But the shadows weren't done. They writhed menacingly, twisting around Emily, choking her words into the darkness. Join us, Emily, they hissed, a cacophony of voices, slippery and seductive, tugging at her sanity. They will consume you. You will know true power. Emily's heart thundered as doubt crept in once more. Would she protect her father or surrender her soul to the dark? As the shadows surged forth in one final push, she lunged toward the altar, determination blazing in her chest. I will not let you take me. The moment collided with the heartbeat of the earth, shaking the very ground beneath her. The altar crackled with energy, wrapping around her. A spiral of shadows lashed out violently, but she could feel the warmth of the markings fighting back, an echo in her mind insisting she could alter the cycle. But what would that mean for her father? Bracing herself, she pressed her hand against the altar, darkness and light crashing together around her. The beast's fury exploded, surrounding her in terror and confusion, drowning her in a tide of vicious uncertainty. What would she find in the tempest? What kind of monster would birth itself? And deep within the confusion, a question lingered, heavy and desperate. Would the price for power leave her unrecognizable, even to herself? As shadows twisted into sharp claws, turning their hungry gaze toward Emily, she braced for what lay ahead, uncertain of who if anyone would emerge from the chaos. Emily felt the electric pulse of the altar beneath her palm, a lifeline against the thrashing chaos swarming around her. Panic clawed at her throat, tightening like a noose. Shadows flickered, sharp and menacing, grasping at her, eager to pull her under. Her father's visage loomed within the beast, battling against its monstrous rage. Remember! She screamed, her voice cutting through the din. Fight back! For a brief flash, the beast hesitated again. She caught a glimpse of the man he once was, the father who held her close and whispered tales of heroism. Then it roared, a sound that ripped through the air, drowning her hope in a wave of primal terror. The shadows surged closer, wrapping around Emily like icy tendrils, cutting through her resolve. You want power, they coiled around her voice, their whispered promises maddeningly sweet. You want to save him. But at what cost? No! She gasped. Not again. I won't give in. With reckless determination, she pushed against the altar, its ancient markings glowing brighter, illuminating the forest with an ethereal light. The shadows recoiled momentarily, hissing and snarling, but Emily felt the growing strength of the markings. They thrummed beneath her fingertips, sent jolts up her arm, and down into her core. This is not a bargain. I refuse to sacrifice. The words exploded from her, filled with a ferocity she didn't know she possessed. But the altar throbbed with a restless energy, sensing her fear, pulling her into its depths. Images spiraled around her, faces twisted in sorrow, despair swimming in their vacant eyes as they stared back at her. Memories of pain, losses too heavy to bear, painted an image of her own fate if she failed. Emily, a whisper cut through. She turned, and there was her father, his real voice, laced with desperation. You must stop this, find a way to reach me. Determination set in her spine like steel. I will. But the shadows were relentless, pushing against her. They soaked up her words, eroding her spirit with every heartbeat. The altar, finally responding to her fight, erupted in a pulse of light that shot through the tangled roots beneath Emily's feet. She gripped it tighter, feeling the warmth spread through her blood. A sudden vision overwhelmed her, an image of the beast breaking free from its bonds, a fierce freedom fighting against the darkness. Let go. She bellowed as power surged around her, the boundaries between her and the beast fracturing. Join me. The shadows screamed, their coherence fracturing as they twisted and turned against one another, a cacophony of anguished voices. The altar illuminated a new path, an opening, an escape into the chaos. Emily's resolve wavered in that moment. Was there another choice? A rush of light wrapped around her, weaving through the shadows, pulling her apart and binding her anew. Breath catching in her throat, she plunged into the brilliance, surrendering to the whirlwind of energy and fear, no longer certain of where power would lead her. As the vortex of shadows thrashed fiercely around her, her senses heightened. She could see them now, the fractured spirits, lost along the way. Darkness converged into a singular form, relentless and ravenous, but she felt the stirrings of hope mixing with her trepidation. Will you take the lead? They seemed to ask. Will you challenge the darkness? The altar throbbed violently, resonating with her inner conflict. Each pulse tore a new tear in the fabric of the night, each thump a reminder of the cost of true power. What if she could break the cycle of despair? What if she could save her father without losing herself? The shadows stretched, looming larger as Emily clutched the warmth of the altar. In that instant, she became both prey and predator, the last hope entwined with the feral instinct of survival. But as the shadows lunged again, she sensed her grip on reality slipping. Would she embrace the darkness lurking in her soul or stay true to her father's memory? The question lingered like smoke, filling the air with a suffocating urgency, as darkness surged one last time, ready to claim its prize. The light enveloped Emily, refusing to let go as it churned violently around her. The shadows writhed, shrieking like banshees, dark tendrils reaching for any part of her they could grasp. She could hear the echoes of the lost souls trapped in their midst, their voices blending into a maddening symphony of despair. Save him, they pleaded, their tones heavy with sorrow and rage. Join us, the shadows hissed again, this time slick and seductive, promising power beyond her wildest imagination. Emily felt a tug at her heart, a temptation dressed in guilt. The altar pulsed greedily, as if feeding off her conflict. The warmth resonated within her, begging her to fuel it with her will. No! She cried out, the word cracking under the weight of her fear. But even as she protested, she sensed the beast, the form of her father, flailing against the chains of darkness. She could feel its rage, the need to break free mingling with its pain. Each groan of the creature struck her, a reminder of the man who had once lifted her when she scraped her knees and taught her to ride a bike. Sudden images flashed, a childhood memory of laughter, summer afternoons bathed in sunlight, her father's embrace shielding her from any storm. Emily clutched the altar tighter, her knuckles turning white. I will save you, she vowed, her conviction slicing through the air. The shadows seemed to momentarily hesitate, swirling around her in a chaotic dance. At what cost? They whispered. Was it worth the risk to save him? All around her, the dark spirits lurked close, their eyes gleaming with the desperation of souls yearning for release. She could sense their treachery, could almost taste the decay of hope they carried. The altar's brightness intensified, scorched her skin, drawing secrets from the chasms of her heart. It was then she understood she had to face her own darkness. Past failures clawed at her mind. The boy she never spoke to. Secrets she kept, hiding her fears deep inside. Fear coiled like a serpent in her stomach. Emily felt a mounting weight, the ground beneath her quaking as the shadows strove for much more than just to consume her father. They wanted her. Let go of him. She shouted defiantly, her voice reverberating through the chaos. The intensity grew, her pulse matching the beat of the altar. In that moment, the line between fear and determination blurred. Her spirit surged. "Thou shalt not pass," she bellowed, feeling the energy of the altar align with her will. The ground trembled beneath them, like a warning before a storm. Shadows howled in fury, thrashing violently as they sought to consume her, but Emily pushed forward, and with a bright flash, the altar surged. Blinding light sprayed against the encroaching darkness, scattering the shadows into wisps of black smoke. Her father's eyes, once lost in suffering, gleamed from the depths of the beast. "Emily!" He roared through the darkness, a clash of man and monster. It was a moment of lucidity, a single sliver of hope that cut through the chaos. But then it came crashing down. The shadows regrouped, their ferocity magnified, now united in their rage against her defiance. Emily felt their hatred burning against her skin, the fear creeping back in. "Help me!" Her father's voice was raw, vibrating through the darkness, but Emily was unsteady. Did he still dwell within the beast, fighting for supremacy? Or was this a trap, a pitfall rendering her weak? Beneath her feet, the altar shuddered, shifting with ominous intent. The air grew heavy, pressing in around her. Chews echoed from all sides, a demand carried on the winds of despair. The shadows surged again, and in that moment, Emily realized the truth. To save her father, she would have to confront the monster within herself. But as she teetered on the brink of that revelation, she caught a glimpse of the truth behind the altar's glow. It flickered, like a dying flame, and an even darker secret whispered through the shadows, a secret that threatened to unravel everything she believed. What would she uncover if she chose to step back into the depths of the darkness? Emily steeled herself for the descent, heart racing, knowing one truth: leaving would never be an option again. Emily stepped forward, the shadows writhing closer, eager to pull her into their dark embrace. Sweat clung to her brow, and her breath came in sharp gasps. The altar pulsed beneath her touch, its light flickering like an unstable heartbeat. Each pulse felt like a challenge, pulling her deeper into the tangle of her fears. "Emily! Remember who you are. You're stronger than this." Her father's voice fought through the chaos, desperate and raw. She couldn't tell if it was truly him or the beast trying to manipulate her. But something in his tone resonated. It ignited a spark. Waves of darkness crashed against the light, pulsing and throbbing like a living thing. The whispers returned, spinning webs of doubt. "You're nothing without us," they breathed, slithering into her thoughts. "Your father is lost." "Shut up!" she screamed. The shadows recoiled, but not for long. They merged into a thick mass, hollow eyes piercing through the smog. Emily felt their presence tightening around her, a coil ready to constrict. The altar shook violently beneath her. "Face it, Emily. Face the darkness within." The voice echoed, powerful and booming, drowning out the others. Somehow, she sensed it was her own voice urging her on. The energy surged again as she remembered countless nights spent alone, regrets flooding back like waves. The way she turned away from her fears instead of confronting them. "No more," she gasped, feeling strength swell from somewhere deep within herself. "No more hiding. I'll face the truth, no matter what." With resolve crystallizing in her heart, she stepped closer to the altar, the light enveloping her like a protective embrace. The shadows shrieked, twisting chaotically, their unity fragmented by her newfound resolve. She understood now: they fed on her fear, and she'd been willing to let them. Let him go. She pressed her palms against the altar, feeling the warmth radiate into her core. The whispers fell silent, the air thick with tension as if the universe paused to watch. Dread seeped into her bones, but her determination hardened. "I'll save you, Dad," she cried, tears brimming in her eyes. Desperation hung heavy in her voice. The altar responded, pulsing with radiant light, illuminating the cavernous dark that surrounded her. Suddenly, shadows swirled violently, roiling into a dark tempest. She closed her eyes, letting the light guide her. "I know what I must do," she breathed, steadying herself. Recognizing the shadowy figures as morphed pieces of her past, she focused. "Stand together, Emily." The combined echoes of the lost souls rang clearer than ever. It felt like a concert of voices, urging her to realize, she alone could control the chaos. With every ounce of strength, she unleashed her fury, confronting phantom memories, unspoken words, and buried shame. "You're just shadows. You don't define me." Each affirmation felt like a punch against the crushing weight of despair. In a heartbeat, the altar blazed. The radiance sliced through the darkness. Suddenly, time seemed to slow. Emily felt as though the world had shattered around her. The shadows recoiled, their forms twisting in pain, but it was too late. A blinding stream of light surged, washing everything else away. But as the brilliance faded, the air shifted again. Something sinister lingered. An unyielding shiver gripped her spine. Deep within, an uninvited whisper wove through the remnants of her fear. "What if your father is truly lost? What if it's too late?" The darkness flickered with unsettling life. "Join us forever," it crooned, its tone laced with a chilling promise. The altar trembled. What had she unleashed? Would she truly be able to save him, or had she awakened something even more dangerous? As the shadows twisted once more, revealing glimpses of unspeakable horrors, Emily felt their grip tightening again. She stood on the precipice of something vast and terrifying. Would she dare to plunge into the unknown to save the one she loved, or would the shadows win? The shadows swirled wildly around Emily, pulsating with a mind of their own. She could feel the energy of the altar, once warm and inviting, now felt icy and malevolent. The air thickened, heavy with despair and unspoken truths, leaving her breathless. "Emily," the voice broke through the chaos again, but this time it was warped, twisted. It sounded like her father's, yet laced with a sinister undertone that struck fear into her heart. "Come to me. It's your only chance." Panic fluttered in her chest, a relentless drum of dread. She staggered backward, the light of the altar flickering uncertainly, shadows trying to reclaim their hold on her soul. Thoughts raced through her mind, drumming up memories: family picnics, laughter shared, the warmth of his embrace. But then another wave crashed in. The darkness trembled, encroaching, revealing grotesque figures morphing from the vapor. "Can you really trust him?" they hissed, voices overlapping, each sound a knife in her psyche. "He's lost, Emily. Would you save what's already broken? Stop!" she shouted, clenching her teeth as she felt their icy tendrils graze her skin. The altar pulsed in response, light spilling like honey over the rock, trying to banish the consuming shadows. The horror of it all threatened to swallow her whole. Each whisper sank deeper. Those were her fears, the very seeds of doubt she had carefully watered over the years. Her resolve weakened under their onslaught. "I'm the strong one, not you," she murmured, uncertainly. But the shadows only laughed, a cacophony of cruelty that danced on the edge of her sanity. Suddenly, her father's face broke through the gloom, a glimmer of hope, yet twisted and contorted, eyes clouded with the darkness. His mouth moved, but the words that came were not words of solace. "You must embrace me, Emily, fully. Join us." "Join you? No!" Emily screamed, shaking her head violently. Heart racing, she fought against the urge to succumb, to allow the shadows to envelop her in their false comfort. A flicker of clarity surged through her, battling the intense despair. "I want to let you take me. The light of the altar surged, a shining beacon in the encroaching darkness. Emily grasped tightly to that light, her fingers yearning for the warmth. Closing her eyes, she thought of her father as he once was, full of life, laughter, strength. A guttural roar responded, as the shadows exploded in a frenzy, streaks of dark energy whipping around her like angry serpents. They struck like lightning, tearing at her skin, her mind. You are beyond salvation. You can't return to the light, not now. Let him go. She cried, feeling her words resonate deep in her core, a breath of courage lending strength to her plea. I choose love over fear. With the intensity of her resolve, the altar pulsed back, vibrating with a pure intensity that flooded the dark with shimmering bright light. The shadows recoiled, hissing and shrieking, their forms cringed under the luminosity. For a moment, she thought she had won. But just as quickly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and the shadows reformed into something denser, more horrific. The altar's light dimmed, revealing a looming figure that was once her father, twisted beyond recognition. His features churned into a monstrous face, eyes hollow and glowing with despair. What have you done, Emily? Don't you understand? He thundered, the echo of his voice vibrating through the cavern, striking terror in her heart. Chilled to her core, Emily staggered back as the truth began to sink in, blurring the line between hope and horror. The shadows had morphed him, twisting his essence into a reflection of her deepest fears. She wasn't merely battling for his soul. She was in a fight for her own existence. As desperation welled up inside, she knew she had to reach him. The altar flickered again, searching for a way to bridge the chasm between them. Would she have the courage to face this twisted version of her father, the embodiment of everything she feared? Would she enter the darkness again to find the love within? In that dreadful silence, a chilling whisper floated through the air, you can't save him. He belongs to us now. What price would she have to pay to reclaim him? And could she bear the truth that lay ahead? Emily's heart thudded in her chest like a drum of warning, the monstrous face before her a grotesque parody of the father she loved. The air twisted with an unbearable tension as the shadows writhed around him, feeding on her dread. This wasn't merely a nightmare, it was a sinister reality bleeding into her every thought. What happened to you? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper, lost in the cacophony of anguish and terror that swirled in the darkness. The eyes of the creature were hollow, sockets glowing with a malevolent fire that flickered and danced, mocking her. He took a step forward, the shadows retreating and then surging back as if they weren't quite ready to let him go. I am what remains, he growled, his tone a chilling echo of what had once been. You, too, are lost fighting a battle you cannot win. Emily shook her head, desperation clawing at her throat. No. I won except this, not you. She could feel the altar pulsing beneath her feet, struggling to hold the light in place. Yet a chill crept around her, testing her resolve. Join me, Emily, he pleaded, his voice dripping with false sweetness. They will consume you. You can't defeat them alone. Embrace the darkness, it's your only escape. Escape? Her mind raced, thinking of the warmth of sunny days, of laughter and love. This isn't escape. It's destruction. The shadows howled, shaking violently. You fool! They screeched in unison. You cannot run from your blood. Every fiber of your being yearns for this. Emily took another step back, her pulse raging. Each scream of the shadows felt like claws digging into her mind, inciting a deep-rooted fear. I am not my blood. She shouted as her voice rang through the dark, desperately grasping at fragments of her father's distant memory. Words left her lips unbidden, words of love and kindness, recounting memories that felt like lifelines thrown from a sinking ship. Dad, remember the nights we spent watching the stars? You taught me to see the beauty in everything. Don't let them twist you like this. The creature paused, a flicker of recognition sparking in those hollow eyes. And in that moment, Emily felt hope swell within her. Could she reach him? Was there still a piece of the man she loved buried within the horror? Fight it," she urged, stepping closer to him, the altar's light flickering but still strong beneath her feet. Her father's shadowed form trembled, the darkness around him pulsing with uncertainty. "You taught me to be brave. You can resist them." He recoiled, a low growl rumbling from deep within. The shadows hissed as if sensing their grip weakening. "You cannot resurrect the dead, Emily. I am no longer your father." But Emily pressed on, consumed by fierce determination. You are the love I believe in. You taught me that love conquers fear." The air thickened with tension. The shadows shrieked, lighting up the cavern with flashes of grotesque forms writhing in agony, unwilling to let go. The light within the altar pulsed, unstable yet yearning to vanquish the darkness, and then, with a desperation that sliced through her soul, Emily tore open her heart, letting every love-fueled word spill out. "I love you. I won't abandon you." The creature halted, confusion painting his grotesque features. A crack formed in the darkness, a flicker of incandescent light edging around the edges. But the shadows recoiled with rage, swirling tighter around him, tightening their grasp. "You cannot save him. He will forever belong to us." Gritting her teeth, Emily summoned every last ounce of strength. If she had to confront the ultimate horror her father lost to darkness, she would do it. The altar resonated with her rising courage, casting beams of light that danced like wild flames. "Together we can fight this," she shouted, reaching out for him, her own hands trembling yet extended, the light pulling her closer. The last scream of the shadows pierced the air, a terrifying promise echoing through the cavern. "Face the truth, Emily. It's too late for him and for you." As the wall of darkness surged forward, she knew she was at a precipice. Would she slip into the abyss, surrendering everything to this horrible fate? Or could her love be strong enough to pull them both back to the light? With a final terror-filled breath, she summoned every drop of love within her, an offering to the dark. Would it be enough? As the shadows swirled violently, ready to strike, a warmth began to radiate from her heart, the altar's glow intensifying. What awaited her beyond this battle? The darkness whispered of doom, but hope still flickered. And in the chilling silence that followed, a voice emerged, a whisper too faint to fully grasp. "You must choose, or perish in the cinders of despair." What would she dare do next, and would it truly change anything? The answer loomed like a storm on the horizon. Emily's heart pounded, the weight of the moment pressing down like a stone. She stood at the edge of the abyss, her outstretched hands trembling as she faced the remnants of her father, now a twisted monster begging her to join him in darkness. The shadows roared, swarming like hungry wolves, threatening to pull her down into their depths. But she forced herself to breathe, each inhalation steady with determination, clenching her fists as she focused on the flicker of light within the altar. "No!" she yelled out, her voice echoing through the chaos. "I won't turn my back on you. I believe in you." As she spoke those words, a change washed over the monstrous figure before her. The beast shuddered, shadows writhing around him, momentarily hesitant. For the briefest moment, the haunted flicker of her father's familiar warmth shone through the despair-filled eyes. "Emily, please, run," he growled, his voice torn between the man he was and the creature he had become. The desperation within him filled Emily with a rush of anger and power. This was not the end. "I won't leave you. You taught me bravery," she cried, stepping closer until the light from the altar wrapped around her, urging her forward. She felt the energy surge with every heartbeat, vibrant and alive, reflecting the fierce love she held tightly in her heart. "I made a choice," her father roared, agony rippling through his monstrous form. "You don't know what you're asking." "I do know. Love is stronger than any curse," she shouted, her voice rising above the thunderous growls. "You have to remember the man you were." In that moment, something shifted. The shadows hesitated, their cohesion faltering as a crack of radiant light broke through the darkness. Emily leveraged that brief moment to press on, her heart undeterred. You didn't teach me to run away. You showed me how to fight. The altar pulsed with intensity, its warmth creeping up her arms, feeding the fire in her heart. Join me. We can face this together. With fury, she surged toward him, arms wide, as if hoping to bridge the terrifying chasm separating man from monster. The shadows shrieked and lunged, but Emily's voice cut through, fierce and untamed. I love you. Fight back. Emily, don't. He roared, the monster's anger emerging, the sound crashing like thunder. But a moment of recognition sparked through the darkness. His gaze flickered with a familiar glimmer, urging him to reconnect with his lost self. Remember who you are. Emily shouted, dredging up every memory that bonded them: family dinners, tender moments, every instance of courage that laid the foundation of their love. Those memories burst forth like a flood, illuminating her words. Then, in the tense silence that followed, it happened. A sound, like shattering glass, echoed through the air as the shadows recoiled. The altar exploded with brilliant light, cascading across the clearing. Emily, his voice, now softer, broke through the clamor. You have to save yourself, no. She screamed, defiantly standing tall in the face of darkness. You're not lost. You'll fight. I believe in you. With a flash of light, the shadows dissipated, revealing the true heart of the monster clashing against the dark that engulfed it. Emily focused every ounce of her essence into a plea for him, earth-shattering love vibrant in her heart. Please, Dad. Remember our love. The beast lurched as though she had struck a nerve. Emily. He growled, his voice a mix of anguish and desperate love. I will try. The shadows writhed violently, they sensed a threat. A beastly roar erupted as Emily's father fought against them, the chains of despair rattling. Slowly, he began to form back into shape, a flicker of his true self, fighting for recognition. Together. Emily shouted, powering through the dread. In a pulse that felt like the universe locking in alignment, light exploded from the altar, weaving around them like a cocoon. As the monstrous figure lunged to consume her, Emily leaped forward, enveloping her father in the glowing threads of her heart. In that instant, everything collided: light and shadow, love and despair. And then silence. Emily opened her eyes. The altar stood intact, but the chaos had faded away, replaced by a tranquil glow. She blinked, searching for her father. There, trembling at the edge of the clearing, was her dad. Human, fragmented memories swirling in his gaze, but he was free from the darkness. I'm here, he whispered, voice cracked with emotion. I'm so sorry. Emily rushed to him, heart swelling. You did it. You fought back. I never stopped believing. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of pain and joy, as they embraced. There were no more shadows lurking. The weight of the curse felt lifted, replaced by the warmth of renewed connections and love. Thank you for reminding me, he murmured, his voice thick with raw emotion. I was lost, but you brought me back. Around them, a soft glow flickered, casting away the lingering shadows of despair. We can heal, she said softly, pride swelling within her. Her father's hand gripped hers tightly, solid and real. Together. We can face whatever comes next, he replied, his eyes gleaming with warmth. As dawn broke over Maplewood, the blood moon bathed in light, the darkness that once threatened to consume them fell behind. New beginnings awaited. Emily took a deep breath, hope blossoming. Now, this was the start of a new chapter, not just for them but for all those lost souls, waiting for love and courage to carry them through confrontations of their own. As they made their way back home, still holding each other tight, Emily felt lighter, free from the chains of the curse, vulnerable yet empowered, ready to step forward. Don't forget, every moment matters. Now, before you click away, here's what you need to do: subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it really matters. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the ending. Let us know what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know how much support means. Let us keep this journey alive together.